are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win show.
Hey, good to be with you today as we talk about your relationship to helping others. But first, I want to congratulate you because you are a Collier County Tennis Association champion.
Hey, thank you.
Paul won.
It was a good season.
Yeah, Paul, you actually got called back to replay a match because someone got disqualified. And although you didn't win the first time out, you got called back and you ended up taking first place in Collier County. So
it was a good season. It was a lot of fun.
It was a great season. Great tennis. So we're here today to talk about your relationship with helping and assisting others. And we all value helping others. We just value it in a little bit of a different way. So for this session, we're going to talk about a continuum for helping others. And on one end of the continuum, Paul is going to be what we call intentional about helping others. And on the other end of the continuum, I am going to be altruistic. So we're going to describe the characteristics of somebody who has these motivators. And remember, we're talking about hidden motivators, and we're in session 6 of 7 in talking about these hidden motivators.
And why are hidden motivators important for us to know about?
Hidden motivators are so critical for us to know about ourselves, first of all, because it's what drives us to take action. So the thing that you may not know if you haven't studied this before, I certainly didn't know it before we started learning it, is that there's a couple of things about our behaviors and our motivators that really help us to understand how to be more successful. And this is really why we're doing this, because we want you to be more successful by tapping into the strengths of your drivers, your motivators. So we've got behaviors. That's how we show up. It's basically, the way that you communicate and your communication preferences. So that's how you show up. But then there are these hidden motivators that you don't otherwise know about. And it's why you do what you do. It's why you take action. And so when you think about the motivator called others, like how you like to help and assist others, we all do it a little bit differently. And what's really interesting is the further you are on one end of the spectrum or the other, you're going to behave in a certain way. It's actually going to drive you to take action, but it could also be a total stressor for you when somebody's doing it the other way, which you might think is wrong, but there's no right and wrong here.
Yeah, and this is totally one motivator that before taking an assessment and figuring out and identifying what it actually is, I didn't realize why I act the way that I act or do the things that I do, but I am truly motivated by this. So the one intentional, which is part of the others continuum. So one side of others is intentional, and intentional is all about how I basically strategically help people. I don't do it necessarily just out of the goodness of my heart. I just don't go out of my way to generally go out and help people just for no reason at all. There really has to be a purpose around why I'm helping somebody, and somebody has to be willing to take the help. So I don't want to put in the effort of helping somebody if they're not interested in any of the help.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know this for all these years. And what I recognize now is that I really, when I look to see if I'm going to help somebody, I'm looking to see if there's a benefit for me. And also if the person's interested in taking the help and willing to receive the help. And if they're not, and I can just see by body language or there's just disinterest, I will turn away from that and probably maybe help somebody else or maybe nobody at all. So,
okay. All right. So if you're
that's
intentional,
how that shows up.
If you relate to what Paul was just saying, if you're intentional, you help others who want to help themselves. You help others for a strategic purpose, for some purpose. You don't just indiscriminately help anyone, right? Whereas someone on the altruistic side of the spectrum wants to help anyone and everyone and does not discriminate, doesn't pick and choose who they help, because someone who's altruistic gets incredible value and gets energy from helping others in any way. So the more I help, the more it makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So those who are really altruistic are motivated to help as many people as they can. And that's what brings them joy. That's what brings them energy. And so when you think about someone who's really far on one end of the spectrum or another, you can see how somebody who's highly altruistic would look at someone who's intentional and think, well, why aren't you helping everyone? Like, so I would be stressed out as someone who's altruistic if I saw someone who was in need of help and someone wasn't helping them. I would think, what's wrong with you? Are you just being selfish? Don't you care? You must not care. But really, it's just a different way of being motivated.
Yeah.
Right? So
and
describe how you would feel about somebody who's altruistic, just helping everyone.
Well, and when I see people that are highly altruistic, where they are out to help everyone, I'm like, man, sometimes I wish I could be a little bit more like that. And I certainly can be, but it just does not come naturally. And that's where, when we talk about hidden motivators, it's really about the things that drive us, the why we do things naturally. So it's kind of innate in ourselves about what motivates us to take the action. And so in this particular instance, when I see somebody who's highly altruistic and they're out doing everything for everybody, I may say, I wish I was a little bit like that, but I also am like, God, I mean, they just spend so much time on other people. Do they ever do anything for themselves?
So this is a really good point, because this is something to watch out for if you are someone who's highly altruistic, is you tend to put others first. And the higher altruistic you are, the more you put others first, and you might even help somebody to your own personal detriment. So you're going to go out of your way. If it's a work situation, you might offer to stay late. You might offer to come in over the weekend. You might offer to help somebody else who's jammed up with a project because they need to be somewhere or go somewhere, even if it's not convenient for you, because you get this energy from helping others. Now, just because you're energized by it doesn't mean that you don't get upset by it sometimes, because when you're helping others, you want to help everyone. But what you're going to see is that sometimes you get taken advantage of, because people will know if you are altruistic and you're always wanting to help, they're going to come to you and ask for help because they know you're going to say yes. So it's very easy to get taken advantage of, and it's easy to feel bitter about it too, because you look around and you're going to see an imbalance. You're going to see that you are giving so much all the time. You're constantly helping others. You're not taking care of you. I mean, you might even find that you have health issues because you're so busy supporting and helping others that you don't take or make enough time for you. So if that's you, just recognize that as much as you're driven by helping others, you can't help others if you're not in good shape yourself. So really being intentional about making some time for you, taking care of you. I know there are some of you listening right now who could really, really use that advice. I mean, think about how willing you are to help other people, but do you do it for yourself?
Yeah. And so if you're listening to this or watching it, are you just listening to us talk about and describe what altruistic is and what intentional is? When you think to yourself about who you are you more intentional? Are you more altruistic? Are you, or somewhere in between? If you're highly altruistic, one of the challenges that come with it is, where I've seen this, is people become somewhat passive aggressive. This could be one of the challenges, because they take on so much and they kind of play maybe the martyr a little bit in some cases, right? And they're all worn down and they're playing, hey, I'm just helping out so many people. I'm taking care of so many people. They're not taking care of themselves. And that can sometimes be a real issue for them.
Yeah. So this is an indicator that you might be altruistic. If you have a really hard time saying no, you might be altruistic.
Yeah.
If you're the one in a meeting where somebody's saying, oh, we need help with this project, and all the other people are looking away.
All the intentional people.
And you're like, I'll do it. You might be altruistic. And so what we find, and I'll just talk about some examples of people who I know who are very, very much on the altruistic side of the spectrum, is that they tend to take so much on because they don't want to say no. They want to be so supportive. So they take so much on that they can't actually accomplish it all. So the stress starts to build and build and build. But they want to be that team player. They want to be that one to take it on. And by the way, people who are really altruistic really want to diffuse conflict. They don't like conflict. So they're never going to come up to you and say, oh my gosh, I have too much on my plate. Can you take something? Because they would never want to put someone out. So just be thinking, if you relate to this, if you're saying, oh my gosh, yes, that's me, what do you need to do? Well, I want to give my best advice for those of you who are really altruistic. You have a hard time saying no. When someone asks you to do something, the automatic response for you would be sure. And you probably say that before you even really think about it. And you can't take those words back, nor would you want to, because you're energized by helping. Instead of having the automatic response when someone asks for your help or asks for you to do something, just say these words. Thanks so much for asking. Would it be okay if I just checked my calendar and I got right back to you? Or if I just checked, to make sure that I have capacity to do that, or checked my resources and let me get back to you. If you just buy yourself a little bit of time, don't say yes immediately. What that's going to do for you is it's going to give you that time to really think through the request. Is it something that you truly, truly want to do? Maybe it's something you actually have to do, and so you just need to say yes. But there are probably going to be a lot of times where what they're asking you to do is not something that you really want to do. And if you have too much on your plate, don't add something to it if you don't really want to do it, because there's probably somebody else who will.
That is a great tip. So if you've just listened to this, I would say back up a little bit, listen to it again. And if you're somebody that takes on way too much and is always saying yes to when people ask you to do things, and then you're like, oh, God, I wish I didn't say yes, and regretting that you did, use what Heather said. Give yourself some time. Yeah, buy yourself some time. Think about it. Check your calendar, and then get back to them. Because people know when they have somebody who's highly altruistic. They will take advantage of that person, not necessarily on purpose, but they will just because they know they'll say yes, and they just it's the easiest path to getting what they want.
And quite frankly, it looks like it makes you happy to say yes. Yeah. Internally it does. It drives you. So it's not that people are just looking to take advantage of you, but it can happen really easily.
So tell me
about those who are intentional though.
Yeah. So tell me about intentional and how people can come off if they're highly intentional, even overextended. When I say that, overextended meaning just way over intentional in the way that they treat, in the way that they deal with other people. How does that show up for somebody who's altruistic? How do they view that person in the real world?
Well, as I said, someone who's altruistic might judge someone who's intentional because the viewpoint is you should help everyone with everything. So if you don't help, they might make some judgments about you maybe being selfish. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, someone who's intentional, you help you really enjoy helping people, but for a strategic purpose, right? There's usually something in it for you. So as an example, from a work perspective, if you have an employee who needs to help you get something accomplished, you will spend time helping that employee if it's going to help you get something done.
Right.
If there's another employee, maybe unrelated to you, different department, needs some help with something, you're probably not going to bend over backwards to help that person because you're more focused on the objective. You're more focused on achieving. So look, there's no good or bad or right or wrong, but there are strengths and limitations with every motivator. So what I would say to those who are intentional is to keep in mind that helping others is a good thing. And sometimes just helping others for no reason at all is a good thing. So, even though you're used to helping people for a strategic purpose and helping those who will help you accomplish something, every now and then, just give, right? That's what the altruistic would say. Just give. Just help everyone.
So that's our discussion on others and the continuum of altruistic and intentional. Next week, we're going to be discussing power, which is the key word.
Yeah. So next week's conversation is great. The keyword is power, right? This is the hidden motivator that relates to how you relate to control over personal freedom, control over, quite frankly, everything. So
has somebody ever told you you're a control freak?
You know what's really funny is the biggest control freaks will say, I'm not a control freak, but, and you look at him like, you're totally a control freak.
So what are the two ends of the continuum?
So the two ends of that continuum are
collaborative.
Well, commanding, collaborative, right?
Yeah.
So the commanding loves to have control and the collaborative tends to more like consensus. So we're going to talk about that one and how that impacts you and how it might impact others too. So tune in again next week.
And if you like this podcast, please share it. If you've seen it on Facebook Live or if you're watching on YouTube, please share it or like.
And if you, sorry, I'm just talking right over you, commanding. If you haven't connected with us yet, please go to heatherchristie.com. You can sign up for our leadership list there where we will send you lots of goodies. So have a great day and look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye now.